amidst of all the noise and disturbance of the mind, amidst this constant quest to become something, amidst this desire to keep doing something, we should never forget that what we are searching for is really our own inner silence. See, silence is not negative. Silence is not absence of something. In a spiritual sense, silence is the moment when life is complete. When life is not divided by thoughts, and when it is not pulling you in 1,000 different directions, the natural state of the mind is silence. Silence of seeing is darkness. Silence of the body is rest. Silence of unnecessary thought process and disturbance is the very nature of the mind. How do we move from the noise and the clutter of the mind towards the silence is the whole journey of meditation. Historically, this silence has been given the most important status in religious symbolism. In Hinduism, silence is represented by the monosyllabic Om or Om. If you actually think about it, Om is not a sound. It's actually a vibration which is represented by 2 letters or 3 letters, OM or AUM. The same word in Islam is Ameen. It's the same Om. At the end of the prayer, they say Ameen. And in Christianity, we say Amen. What does it mean? 3 major religions of the world are talking about Amen or Om at the end of the prayer, which simply means that after all the questioning, after all the desires of the mind, all I'm asking for is inner peace. So when you say Om, you're basically talking about your own inner peace. But it is important to understand the nature of Om scientifically. Religiously, now it has just become a ritual. There's not much meaning to it. We just recite it just because it is a habit. But if you understand it scientifically, it is very significant. Let me give you an example. You take a stick and draw a line on the sand on the beach. Now you ask somebody, what do you see here? And they'll tell you, I see a line. But if you actually think about it, there is no line there. It is simply the space where the sand is absent. You have moved the sand in such a way that it has created an empty space and it appears like a line. So which means even something that isn't there can be perceived. Silence is like that. When I tell people go into meditation, the first thing that you will experience, the first authentic proof that your meditation is deepening is when you hear the sound of silence. And they ask me, how do we hear this sound of silence? If it is silent, how can we hear it? See, conceptually, you will not be able to understand it. But experientially, you can actually listen to the sound of silence. Just like there is no line there. It is simply an imaginary thing that has been created because of the action that you did. Similarly, you will perceive silence because constantly you are amidst of noise. You don't even know that your entire mind is nothing but a sand beach of noise. Even for a single moment, if some of the sand can be removed and emptiness can be created, even for a few moments, if you can be without thoughts and just remain with yourself, the silence will flood in. Initially, you will listen to it as a faint noise, somewhere happening far away. You will miss it several times. But after few days, after few months of practice, the sound of silence becomes like a roaring thunder. It becomes complete. And then you can choose whether to be in silence or be in noise. See, as of now, your mind is disturbed because you really don't have a choice. Imagine if you're among a group of 4 or 5 people and there is a conversation going on and you don't want to be a part of that conversation, but you cannot get up and walk out for whatever reason. Now, you don't have a mechanism that lets you tune out from noise and into silence. Whether you want it or not, wow, that's beautiful. So whether you want it or not, you have to listen to that conversation because you cannot just tune out. Let me tell you this. The day you find this inner silence within you, you would have found a friend who's going to be there with you forever. You would have found your best friend. Because noise comes and goes. You cannot cling to noise because noise keeps changing. At this very moment, depending on what you're thinking, your mind is producing a noise that is corresponding to that thinking. After 5 minutes, the conversation will be different. If you try to cling to your mind, you will be disappointed because mind is a constant change. Why silence is so important? See, it might seem like, oh well, what's so big deal about silence? It is just silent. But understand this, your very nature is silence. You come from the womb of silence and you go back to the eternal silence of the universe. Life is a very brief moment of noise that you experience. But your true nature of reality, your true self, belongs to silence. That is why no matter how sophisticated our society becomes, nothing can replace the simple, serene silence of existence. In fact, the more sophisticated we become, the more knowledgeable we become, the more the mind craves for silence. Because whether we want it or not, that is what our spirit is searching for. We can keep on ignoring this. We can keep on, busying ourselves with, all the different things that we want to do. But if you really want to be contented, if you really want to feel a sense of peace, you will have to find that silence within you. Think about it. What is music if not for the glorification of silence? Music is nothing but glorification of silence. We tend to think that when we are listening to music, we are actually enjoying the sound. But if you observe music carefully, you will realize that it is not the sound that you're enjoying, it is the interspersed space between two sounds that you're actually enjoying. Music is an ornament for silence. Imagine if there was one tune and you switch on the radio or television and the music is monotone and it is continuously there. There is no break and there is no silence. Would you call that music? Not at all. You'll be irritated. Only when you mix silence with sound, it becomes music. So which means it is not noise that exemplifies music, it is the silence. In fact, music simply introduces silence, and the moment you forget silence, it again reintroduces you to it. That is why the intoxication of music can never be surpassed by anything else. Because music is just introducing your own inner nature to you. And in a way, it is connecting you to yourself. That is why we hear people telling, music is life. Imagine what is life if you take away music. There is no meaning to life at all. Imagine if there was just constant noise all the time. All of us would have been absolutely mad. Just as there is external music that we can listen to in the beautiful dance between silence and sound, that same music can be applied to our inner life if we can bring silence into our lives. See, as of now, we are disturbed because our life has become a monotone with no silence. When you wake up in the morning till you go to bed in the evening, you are in a monotone of constant activity. Even in moments of rest, you're thinking about something. Thinking has become a continuous stream. That is why life has become meaningless. That is why life has become boring. For a lot of people, boredom is the most difficult thing. Why? Because you have not interspersed silence. And that's what meditation brings in. And that's what Om is. Om is simply a symbolic representation of that inner silence. And once this silence is introduced into your life, then life becomes musical. Then you can play with the rhythm. Then you can introduce new tunes. You can play different songs. But if you don't even know that life is about silence and noise, if you have completely forgotten the importance of silence, then you cannot compose a song. Then it is just a constant disturbance.